what you pay for mortgages or rent, your auto loan, your insurance, your utility deposits, and even if you'll get a job.
Pulling a credit score is an easy way to find out more about an applicant's background.
It becomes one of a tool of the things that they have at their arsenal when they're screening applicants for somewhat, sometimes very competitive positions.
We are in the midst of a growing national debate about what the president has called the defining challenge of our time, growing inequality, its causes and its negative effects for our society, our economy, and our democracy. And one of its most pernicious aspects is the way in which we set up traps to keep people on the bottom on the bottom. Our prison industrial complex cycles through millions of people, releases them, lets them out into the world, where they often find the first job application they encounter asking if they have a criminal record, which makes it hard to find and get a job, which makes it, of course, more likely they'll go back to prison. Another example of this kind of obstacle to mobility is the use of credit scores, which employers are increasingly using as a way of weeding out job candidates. So, someone has a string of bad luck, a family health emergency, has to pay for a loved one's catastrophe, goes through a bankruptcy, and their credit score goes south, and then they can't get a job because the potential employer asks for that credit score. What do you think that's going to do to their credit score in the future, their future employability, their future ability to contribute? One of Washington's most eloquent voices on inequality, Senator Elizabeth Warren, is introducing a bill to ban that practice. Joining me now is Senator Warren. Senator Warren, you've got a piece of legislation on precisely this issue. And I guess the first question is, why shouldn't employers be able to look at the background and record of the people that they want to hire for a job?
Well, first of all, let's just look at the data. There have been studies now that have shown that there is little or no correlation between someone's ability to do a job and their credit rating. But the principal reason behind it is, look, this is one of those things that's just about what's basically fair. People ought to be able to get out there and compete for a job based on whether or not they can do the job, not based on whether or not they can pay their bills or whether or not they've had a problem in the past, a divorce, a job loss, a death in the family, the kinds of things that cause people to have financial problems. Compete on the skills for the job. That's all this is about.
It seems to me this is part of a broader theme in your previous legal scholarship and in your work as a politician, which is areas in which it seems the system appears rigged or unfair, or finds a way to trap and make life worse for people who, given a fair shake, could actually do a lot better.
You know, you put your finger right on it. This is one more way in which the game is rigged. So think about it this way. You know, if you're rich and you get divorced, it's not going to hurt your credit rating. If you're rich and you have a medical problem, it's not going to hurt your credit rating. If you're rich and you end up quitting your job or losing your job, you walk out with a whole lot of savings, you walk out with a nice package, it's not going to hurt your credit rating. But how about families who work hard every day, who live a lot closer to the economic margin? Those are the ones who get hit with a problem, with a medical problem, with a job loss. And boy, it's not only the hit, it's the financial fallout from that hit. And here's the deal. It stays on their credit report for 7 years, in some cases even longer. So what does that really mean? This is a problem that hits hardworking families who are struggling to get back on their feet. It's not one that hits the rich, and I think that's just wrong. I don't think it should happen.
You know, it seems to me right now there's a convergence of a lot of the issues you've championed, both as a scholar and in public life, and where the zeitgeist is, both in the national conversation about inequality and social mobility, and the president talking about it, and where the Democratic and liberal base is on this issue. I mean, there's one activist group out there, the PCCC, that refers to the Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democratic Party. Yeah. Is there an Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democratic Party? Are you its leader?
Look, this isn't about me. This is about the issues, about what's happening to America's families. America's middle class, America's hardworking families have been hammered on for a generation now. And it's not just one problem. It's one after another after another. They've been hit with flat wages or even slightly declining wages. and all the core expenses of being middle class, of housing, of health care, of what it costs to keep a child in daycare or send a kid to college, to medical care. All of those costs have shot through the roof. That has put a squeeze on these families. They sent as many people as they could into the workforce. In two-parent families, they sent both mom and dad or both moms into the workforce. But it still wasn't enough. They turned to debt, and then they were targeted by a credit industry that figured out you could make huge profits from lending to people who were already in a financial squeeze. And so what's happened is America's middle class has just been under this enormous pressure. And parts of it are beginning to break apart. Our once steady, solid, almost dull middle class. That was the idea. We were so sure it would always be there. Pieces are starting to break away. But Senator, families can no longer say to their kids, you're going to do better than I did. And that's what it is we have to attack.
Here's my question. The trend you're talking about and have been tracking and are trying to address in legislation like this and other pieces of legislation you've introduced, these are 30, 40-year trends. I mean, we've seen this kind of system, this sort of version of American capitalism, and the Democratic Party has been in power during periods in which that is exacerbated. Democrats voted for the bankruptcy bill, which you opposed strenuously. I don't know if Democrats have done enough to combat this. Is the Democratic Party focused enough on this core issue?
Look, the question is, what are we going to do going forward? We have to outline our priorities, and we have to be willing to get in there and fight for them. And that's what all of this is about. It's about how we fight for our college kids, the kids who are trying to get an education, people who are being crushed by student loan debt. It's about how we fight for seniors, to protect Social Security and to help people get more money into retirement savings. And in this particular case with this bill, it's how we fight for people who've been hit by one economic blow or another and are out there trying to compete in the job market and just want a level playing field. You're right, the pieces come together because a lot is broken, and it's going to take a lot of pieces to get it fixed again.
Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, great thanks.
Thank you.